Hi Dave, great work the other day. Just a quick recap on the key points that we discussed, relating really to the wrist condition, delivery, that sort of bold left wrist, toe end of the club down more. Obviously discussing the amount at which you do that needs to be relative to the type of ball flight that you want to achieve. If your goal is to get the ball height or ball flight up, you don't want to add too much of that bowing and towing down of the club, because what you're going to do is take a little bit of loft off there. Then you're going to need to use some different pieces to give you some height in your shot, etc. So really we're looking at ways of improving your delivery position, improving the overall look, maybe not to the extent that you think you need, but just looking at ways of improving the delivery position to make the shot pattern less chaotic, much more efficient, and give you a better understanding of what you're actually trying to achieve at delivery. So if we take a look at what the issue was, I'll take you down to delivery position. You were focusing quite heavily on trying to get the left wrist a little bit more bowled under, get the club face a little bit less open to the arc, and you said that when you did that you had much improved ball striking. Yes, it would help. How you go about doing that needs to potentially be reconsidered, and that's what today was all about really. We're talking about the left arm being out too much. We want to get that left arm in more, which in turn will bring that left wrist down a little bit more. We'll have the club down a little bit more, right forearm down a little bit more, etc, etc. So it's more about moving that left arm than it is considering that lead wrist. So what's happening as we get from P3 to P4, historically there's been a little bit of a lift. That lift's not as significant as it was, but it does still get in there. As you lift, you watch the back of the lead hand, that starts to twist, and that then, the arms are out because of the lift. The back of the lead hand has started to release too early. Just do a line down there for you. So the shaft now is hitting the right shoulder. Back of the lead hand, accumulator 3. If accumulator 3 releases too soon, then that will pull the shaft out in front of you and make it difficult to get the club on the inside, potentially. Here we're asking you to lift less. You can see there as you lift less, the accumulator 3, the back of the left hand is in a certain condition at P3. Because we've removed the lift by putting the cane under the arm, as it transitions, accumulator 3 doesn't load or release. It just maintains its condition, which is ideal. That's exactly what we're looking for. So accumulator 3 fully loaded at P4, then maintaining its condition in transition, so we can see the effect that has. The shaft now sitting much shallower, the left arm in more, as per the images that I've emailed across to you. And from there, you're much more inside earlier. But then if we look at what happens on this left hand image, you go from being potentially outside to very much inside. So what happens is you sort of release accumulator 3, and then there's this funny little sort of load in it again. And the shaft goes from being above to below the right forearm. In order to do that, the body's got to work a certain way. You see the legs potentially can stall a little bit. The lead arm gets pulled out in front of you a little bit too much. And we get that gloved hand where the badge on the glove would point upwards a little bit too much. Left wrist cupping, etc, etc, when done at its worst. So very much out in front of you, look like you're going to hit a little bit of a fade, and then you go from that to way inside pretty quickly. On this one, because you're in more at P5, the move onto the right forearm is less dramatic. It's a gradual move onto that right forearm. The lead arm doesn't get pulled out as much. The lead wrist is now here rather than here. Whatever the lead wrist does, the club face is going to do. So we've now got a club face that is less open to the arc coming into impact. Through the hit, there's less of a corner to turn. So accumulator 3, back of the left hand, fully loaded at P4, maintaining that condition to P5, maintaining that condition further to P6, and then gradually releasing through the hit. You can see when you do that, the roll of the club face is significantly reduced. That right wrist doesn't work over as fast. You know, it's again something that you used to do a lot of. We used to get this big gap between the right arm and the left coming through the hit. That's not as significant as it was, but it's more than it. There's more of a gap there than when you're swinging it at your best. So the move that you're making on the right, much quieter, legs working a little bit differently, controlling the exit a little bit more. From a shot making standpoint, if we keep moving through the shot, so we discussed the move Hogan made. If you want to hit more of a cut, you just get the chest opening up quicker. If you want to hang it out to the right, you just reduce the rate at which you want to turn through the golf ball. As a good player, you know how to do that. You hit enough different shots in practice. But really, we're just trying to reduce the effect that the back of the lead hand has and its condition at delivery on the overall shot. So the guy on the left, club face very open. The only way he's going to get that club face to be where he wants it at impact is by stalling the body a little bit and rolling the hands, which is sort of the feel you get in when you look at it in the real world. The lower body doesn't really stall that much. It's not necessarily visible, but it's a feel you get. The hands certainly release over more. The guy on the right, accumulator 3, is in a good position. Club face is much squarer, certainly less open to the arc. As a result, he's just got to keep that turn going, keep hold of the golf club and do very little through the hit. Good luck with it. Look forward to watching this one progress throughout the season.